So, thanks for coming for this class today because it is, I know very few people are here, but still it is very important topic which I'll be covering. So, the topic what I'll be covering is policy analysis framework. So, there are multiple frameworks in the public policy domain, but we'll be looking into one of the very popular framework called as Eightfold Path. So in the last session, we were talking about eightfold of Buddhism, right? So I was bit not able to answer like, what is enlightenment called in Buddhism? So later on, I got into it called as Nirvana. Heard of it? Okay. There is also a popular band, Nirvana, right? So it's called as Nirvana. Anyways, so today we'll be looking into in the class for we'll be looking into policy analysis framework. So some of the parts I had explained in the previous session, I'll be going through it again. So the idea is that you should be very clear about what is the framework, how we are going to apply for the policy problem. So since most of them are not present today, I think if your friend asks your help, just give them some clarification. Still, if they have a doubt, and if you have a doubt, you can just come to my cabin anytime. So what is the outcome? We are looking here is, so we are going to understand some of the real problems using the framework, and it is also graded one. So it is going to be a part of your assignment too. And so I'll come to the guidelines part in the last. So of course, yeah, it's a group project. I'm just letting you know at the beginning itself. So the maximum collaboration is 4. If you want to do it individually, it is up to you. Okay, max is 4. That's what. I'm not telling that it is only individual project. Fine. So the maximum collaborators can be 4. So if you want to do an individual project, single authorship, then also you can just go ahead and do it with this. So again, like I also see a scope for putting some of the case studies which you might take it for the real world policy problem, wherein we can put it in some newspaper articles. What could be the possible solution looking from the framework lens? So there's a lot of scope which we can explore about it. So what happens usually in the public policy debates and all, right? If there is a problem, there will be a lot of noise. There will be a lot of rhetorics, political talks. If you just see the budgetary debates, you take any news channel, there will be a ruling party government and there will be opposition party over there. So someone is telling it's a great policy, the taxation policy. Someone is telling no, it is going to ruin the fiscal health of the country, something. So a lot of things will be coming out. But as a policy specialist or as a public policy student, what you need to be clear or what everyone needs to be clear is that there needs to be clarity about the problem. You take as simple as like the pothole issues in Bangalore. So let us not go to the budget or big macro thing and all. There are a lot of potholes right in Bangalore, we know it. And there's a lot of debate about it. What needs to be done? You ask any people on the streets of Bangalore city, even if you just go out of Ramaya and you just ask them, like everyone has a multiple causes why the pothole is happening. It could be the corruption or inefficiency with the agencies, bureaucratic apathy. All these things will be there. You can just find out all this stuff on the streets. As a policy students, like you should be clear in like how you define the problem and what could be the solutions you can give it to that, and what is the best alternative, what is the best choices a decision maker has to do it, right? So it becomes very clear to have some clarity about the policy problem. So it might be applicable to any of your, even of your industry related issues also. Many of you are from financial background, right? Finance specialization. So having a clarity becomes very important. That's what like, we need to come out of rhetorics. We need to come out of all the noises, what we hear from the market, and we need to see the problem as it is. So Same as it is applicable maybe in the different other fields, it is also more so applicable in the field of public policy. So what we have a different set of frameworks here with respect to public policy understanding or defining the problem, or as to get a clarity about the problem and giving a solution. There are multiple framework over there. So one framework what we are looking into is it's called as Eightfold Paths. So Eightfold Path is a framework which whose the author is like Eugene Bardach. It came in early 90s. The paper is being published as a book in fact, by the Sage Publishers. If you want to read it, you can just read it. Go to the library. I don't think that it's available in our library. You might get it online somewhere. So what we are going to do is that we are going to use this eightfold path, that is 8 steps to understand the problem, define the problem, and give solutions to the problem. Okay, so you will be using this eightfold path in your next assignment. Okay, so the analytical work in problem solving generally proceeds in a certain direction, from defining the problem at the beginning to all the way to making a decision and explaining at the end, right?
The first step in the policy analysis is that you need to define the problem. So the problem statement, what you're going to write for your assignment, it should define the purpose and what do you want to investigate. And it could also include what factors are responsible for the problem and how do you want to solve it. Usually in the problem statement, you need not mention the solution itself. So it is going to come in the later stage. So when you take a case study of your choice, the first step in policy analysis is you need to define the problem, right? So most often the problem is seen in terms of deficit and excesses. For instance, the high level of malnutrition is a kind of deficit, right? It's a problem statement. The excess could be in terms of traffic density. That's a problem statement, right? So you can see the problem, the social problem, to be more specific, in terms of uh, deficit and excesses, right? So when you define the problem statement, it needs to be precise, clear, and it should tell the purpose of it. And you can also bring in certain quantifiable measurements to show the magnitude of the problem. So that is how your problem statement has to be defined.
So for example, here is a problem statement. I think even in the previous class I explained this statement already. Due to COVID pandemic and government guidelines, migrant workers are fleeing Karnataka to northern states at a rate faster than the home states can handle them. Excessive, there is a lot of typo here, sorry. Excessive inward migration will lead to increase in unemployment, which could have impact on socio-economic fabric of the receiving state, basically. So this is, for instance, this is an illustrative statement which I have brought in.
Now, once you define the problem, the next thing should be you need to assemble the evidence. So, how are you going to show that your problem is actually a problem, right? It's a public policy problem. How big it is? You need to tell the magnitude of it. So, for that, you need to grab certain evidences. So, the evidence could be the primary data evidence or the secondary data evidence. For the assignment, which uh, which has been given, I want you guys to focus on the secondary data evidences basically because it's a lot quicker to get it and you can complete your assignment. So, for instance, if you are looking into the fiscal health of the country like India, so what are the secondary database you're going to look into it? So it could be the economic survey or RBI's bulletin, right? So you can go into those kind of a thing. Or else if you're looking into if you're looking into the stock market itself from the policy angle, what you're going to look into the regulatory uh, guidelines of the SEBI, right? So you can look into those things. And if you're looking into malnutrition or infant mortality or maternal mortality in the country, so basically we'll be looking into NFHS. NFHS is nothing but National Family Health Survey. So I want you guys to do first thing is define the problem, and to support the problem statement or to substantiate it, you need to choose certain evidences. And for your case study problem, you choose a secondary evidence. So I hope I'm clear about this.
The next one is, yeah, this is a Google search. This is a Scopus search, which I'll be teaching properly maybe today or in the next class. So what we are going to do is that we are going to learn how to do advanced search on Scopus. So for accumulating evidence for a problem statement, you can just go for Scopus also. So I'm not telling for you guys to go for Google Scholar search for now. Just do the Scopus. Fine?
So in the eightfold path of policy analysis, as mentioned before, first thing is you choose the problem and define it. The second thing is that you are going to assemble the evidence, right? Primary or secondary. So as I said, focus on secondary data evidences. The third thing is that once you have the evidence, you need to list out the course of alternatives or course of action which you want to suggest to the policy makers or the decision makers. So construct possible course of action to solve the problem. For instance, you are telling that the government can go for a partnership. It could be a public-private partnership. So we know that, for instance, national highway projects or various infrastructure projects, uh, they are done usually through public-private partnership. And the suggestion could be also about funding, contracting, providing incentives, direct service provision, and regulation. So, as mentioned, define the problem. The second thing is assemble the evidence. The third point is that you're going to list the course of action.
For instance, like we took up the migrant problem, right? So based on the government data, we will suggest employment-oriented skill development for the migrants. So one is skill development program, and second course of action could be infusing more funds, or the third could be do nothing. So do nothing. It's rarely being will be taken up, especially for this kind of a problem. So when they saw a problem of migrants coming to their native states, so the government can, you are suggesting to the government, please come out with a program or a scheme which could engage in skill development wherein they could be re-employed, okay, in the state. And you're also asking the government infuse the funds. Fine. So this is second course of action.
So once you define the problem, assemble the evidence, and you chalked out the course of action. So how are you going to assess the course of action what you have suggested? So so what you have to do is that you need to infuse certain criterias for assessing the course of action. For instance, like the migrant problem, what we took during the COVID-19, it could be assessed on the basis of fairness to the state. So fairness to the state here, it could be the financial fairness, right? And also, for instance, I not mentioned fairness to the migrants too, right? So how it is helping them to lead a comfortable and meet their basic necessities. And you also need to look into the political feasibility of it and the cost of it, and also fairness to international community. These criteria are very much indicative in nature. It varies as per your problem statement. So you're going to bring in certain criteria on what basis you're going to judge the course of action what you have suggested. So it could largely be based on the principles of effectiveness, how effective it is going to be in addressing the problem. And it could also be based on the efficiency, right? It could also be based on the equity of it, justice, and feasibility. So this is very, very important to measure the course of action, whether it is whether it is whether it is going to address the given objective or the problem or not. So the next thing is we are going to come into the project outcomes. So uh, the criterias what you are going to infuse needs to be very clear. For instance, like if you are telling the skill development, for instance, a skill development program for the migrants. So the criteria could be the financial criteria, right? So financially, if it is viable, put a tick. Okay, so I'm going to come to the matrix part of it in the later stage. Uh, so I hope you are clear. So the first thing what you did for your assignment is you chose the topic, which is public policy in nature, and for that you defined the problem. Defining the problem is very important. The next thing what you did was you assembled the evidence. And the third point is that you suggested the course of alternatives or course of action. The fourth point is you are selecting the criterias for each of the actions. For instance, if you are giving three options for the government, if you are suggesting three options, for each of the options you are going to infuse certain criterias on what basis you are going to assess it. Fine.
And not only this, the next thing is that you need to be able to project the outcome of each of your actions. So if you have one and two actions, if you have suggested, sterilization and rehabilitation, if you have suggested, you should also be able to project the outcomes of it. For instance, there could be a literature which is speaking about positive impact of sterilizing street dogs. A literature, cite it. So if a bureaucrat or an IAS officer or a politician, if he or she is asking, why are you suggesting sterilization? We can tell, okay, this is our organization or these people are the researchers who are telling that sterilization has a positive impact on controlling the street dog issues. Okay, so these are the projection of the outcomes. Since we are just basing it on a secondary data analysis, you can just find some reports for your case study. Fine. So look at the evidence and what are the experts telling about it. If you are looking at the pothole issues, see what is the experts telling about the pothole issues, what could be the solution for it. That is a projection of outcomes. Assume the political, administrative and environmental context as it is, not as you want to be. So the outcomes what you're projecting when you're putting the outcome, you should see it in the present context. Okay, it should not be based on your opinions, what it can be, what it need not be. So it should be based on the context of political scenario in society where you are living. On that basis, you need to give the outcomes, because like there is a high chance that if you are giving some solution, it may not be feasible for our society. It is damn sure it is going to get failed. So any outcomes you are projecting or any policy action you are suggesting should be in the context of political atmosphere. And be confident in what you know and modest in that which you suspect. Getting it? What do you understand by this? Be confident in what you know and modest in that which you suspect. Yes, 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 yeah. So, if you know something, be confident about it. Okay, this is going to help us out. and you should not be confident about something which might not work. Then it is going to come to your head. You are giving the solution. Okay. With respect to migration, we need to project the financial burden for the state. So when you're telling that infuse the fund for skill development, so you also give the numbers to the decision makers, how much it is going to cost to the state exchequer. Okay, be transparent in giving solution. Project willingness of migrants undergoing to skill development. So you should also tell that some of the migrants may not be interested in skill development, right? So you make a program, skill development program. How confident are you that people are going to come and enroll for it? So you be modest in it. You also bring in certain limitations to the scheme. Getting it? Yes, yes, yes. So you be confident in what you're giving solution. You also bring out there could be limitations into it, how it could be tackled. Getting it? So you're understanding, Shiv. So you should be modest. You should not tell like this is end in itself. So you can't get such kind of a solution for any problem, right? So there is always some kind of there could also be certain externalities which you are not taken into consideration while giving this solution, right? So you can just mention even those externalities. Okay.
So, as mentioned previously, in the uh, fourth stage, we spoke of selecting the criteria. In the fifth stage, we spoke of projecting the outcomes. So, here in the sixth stage, we are going to look into the aspect of trade off. We are going to confront the trade off, right? So, for instance, like here, you are going to apply the outcomes of different alternatives against the criteria. So in the course of action, if you have selected three course of actions, you need to mention those three course of action. So you can follow the matrix what I have given, the course 1, course 2, or option 1, option 2, option 3. And in the column, you can mention the set of criterias which you chose for evaluating. The criteria could be based on the effectiveness, efficiency, equity, or else it could be much more precise. It could be like financial criteria, it could be a political criteria, it could be a cultural criteria, or anything what you deem fit to be. Even the international opinion, that could also be a criteria for each of your options. So you can put a tick mark for the uh, relevant criteria. So on that basis, you can select the course of action. Uh, do keep in mind that most of the public policy solutions, what you're going to suggest, it would certainly have certain kind of a trade-off. For instance, if a policy solution is addressing the effectiveness, it might undermine the equity aspect or the justice aspect, right? And if it is focusing on the justice or equity aspect, it might be undermining the efficiency aspect. So you need to keep in mind those things, right? So, for instance, like if you're suggesting financial incentives for migrants' welfare, so of course it is helping with respect to equity, justice, inclusion, and all. But there could be a certain impact on the fiscal situation of the state. So that needs to be mentioned. That is a trade-off. What you are going to look into it. So in the list of options, what you suggested, out of three options, it could be only one what you're going to suggest. Okay. So it depends upon the problem statement, what you are choosing.
So once you do this, once you have a matrix for each policy solution, then you are going to decide which solution is better. Out of five solutions what you had, you might have rounded off for two. Let us go for two solutions. So for the migrant thing, I might have said, okay, one is skill development, infuse the funds. The second thing could be like give them housing. I'm just telling, house in the states if they don't have a house. So for the immediate solution, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to round it off for skill development and infusing funds. Okay. So you need to address the issue of trade-off, then decide. And once you decide on the policy course, one or two, your decision for street dog menaces sterilization, for instance, which is being followed now, in fact, right? Exactly. Yeah. 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 So you had chosen the path of sterilization. You are telling to the policy maker, the chief minister of Karnataka, sir, you go for sterilization. It is going to be effective and also efficient, and it won't hurt for your vote bank also. I'm just telling. Okay. So because a politician also need to take care of his own base, right? So as a policy student or a policy specialist, you need to consider all these things. So if you don't feel comfortable in making the decision, you need to rework again, iterate it until you are confident. This is a process of policy framing. Yeah, Deepak.
So if there are two trade-offs, then there are two solutions for them. How to make
So there are two solutions.
Suppose I found out 5 solutions for a problem, out of which two are the best.
Okay.
So can I put them in both of them in this side section, or
You can suggest both of them.
yeah?
So you can tell these are the best two possible options, which are effective, efficient, politically, it is not controversial, politically feasible, and economically feasible, right? You're going to mention these things. Then the decision maker, he or she is going to be clear, okay, this is the safest option. People want the safest and also the best option, right? So if two solutions are working, provide two solutions. Yeah, Pawan. Doubt? So getting it, is it too tricky? Nothing, right? Yeah. So once you have a solution, you need to tell your story. This is very important. So here you're basically summarizing everything, and you're telling that this is the best solution what we have. And if you're going for street dog or pothole or even the toll management, you guys can take it. Bangalore-Mysore Expressway, toll-related issues. Give a solution. This could be the best possible solution, seeing from the framework lens. It can be a case study, a real-time problem. Don't go for very big things. Climate change or nuclear war, space wars. Choose something which is very local in nature, very near to you. At the same time, you should be having some certain evidence to it. Write a paper, right? You need to write it down. Okay? So, tell your story. I just wrote some of the problems here. Increasing potholes on Bangalore roads, waste management in Bengaluru, people opposing to pay toll at newly built Bangalore-Mysore Expressway. This is a classic policy problem. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You might find it, the data in a sense, what is it? What data? Quantified data? Reports. Hmm? You might find it, I think so. Let us discuss about it. Okay. So choose a topic. It's like a case study what we are doing for your assignment 2. Choose a topic, interesting ones, in which you find it interesting, wherein you can provide solution to it. Don't do it for marks. Marks, okay, I'm going to give it. So choose an interesting topic, define the problem of it, gather evidence to it, list out the alternatives, and project the outcomes for alternatives. Next thing is what? Look for trade-off. Once you do a trade-off matrix, then you will be able to uh, find out the best course of action. Okay, and again, just relook into it whether it's going to work or not. Just go back and forth, and finally, you just need to decide. Okay, this is a one policy solution what I'm suggesting, or this is a two policy solutions, and tell your story. Be confident in it, right? So this will be our assignment 2. Okay, clear? Namita, Pavan, clear?